Okay, number one I have written down is my mission. Missionary and, yeah, my mission. Another thing is my dad's predictions. I mean, he had revelations. And meeting Elder White, getting married, having children, and loving grandchildren. Those are my 5 things.
We can share some of those, huh?
What are yours?
Yeah, all the last 3.
Meeting Elder White.
Well, I have to be Sister Wit.
Sister Whitahera. Okay.
Sister Wit. But, you know, when you meet him on a mission, as you know, you can't do anything about it. So that...
Yes.
I only knew that I loved her when it was my birthday party, and the next day I was going home. Okay? And she didn't show up to the birthday party. Here I was. Where is she? I was making it rather obvious, darn it. And so I was really blown that night. And I hadn't done that before. We were always able to enjoy each other's company without, get too friendly. We went to a movie together. We watched, but that's with the district. Okay.
Yeah.
So we had 8 others? No, we were 4 others.
We went to see Camelot.
4 other companions.
Now, I had a companion.
Yeah, and I had a companion. That's 4. So we had another 4. Okay.
Yeah. The
And
8 of us.
Always, whenever we went somewhere, they were always there.
District.
Yeah. We went together at the district. We watched Camelot with Richard Harris. I can't remember. And then we saw Peter, Paul, and Mary concert that they put on down there. And Sister Witt was way up in front, probably 3 rows from the front, I think. And I was way up in the balcony. But we were there together. Yeah, and more significant is when you gain your first testimony, when you really understand that the Spirit is speaking to you. And I think I got that when I was in seminary, and we were speaking of the first vision. And then after that, missionaries invited me to go out with them. And I was hooked. So I knew I wanted to go on a mission. And my older brother decided that that was good for him too after 1 year. No, he had 2 years at Lewis and Clark and then went to BYU. And that's when he decided he was going on a mission too. So he beat us out there. And then we went. So, the mission was, for me, pretty awkward. I knew I wanted to be there, but I wasn't doing very good. But still bear your testimony, right? And so that was still effective. Life-changing experience was in rewards to that mission. I don't know how many years later. How many years later did we see the Hatchers again?
28.
28 years later. When we went to New Zealand to work, okay? I asked my boss originally, okay, since I'm moving away from my home country, would it be okay if you guys sent me back every 2 years so I can have a vacation and see my family? They said, you bet. And then I said, after a while, I said, well, hey, rather than send me back, because it's so expensive, how about just going to New Zealand or the North Island? And it's a whole lot less expensive. And we'll just say 2 for 1 or that situation. And they agreed to that. And then I said, well, it's no more expensive to send me to Sydney as it is for me to go to Auckland.
It was more expensive to go to Auckland.
Yeah.
They had.
So why not go to Sydney?
Yeah,
And they agreed to that, no problem. And when we were in Sydney, we, of course, toured the town, as tours would do, the harbour and whatnot. And then we went to the temple in the middle of the week. And lo and behold, the family that had baptized in my first area were there. I saw their son, who was getting married that weekend, in the hallway. I didn't know him, but I looked at him and said, "You look familiar." In my mind, I just said, "You look familiar." And I went and sat down in the chapel, and he came and sat down right next to me. He was going to go for, he was going to be sealed, to his fiancée.
No. The next day he was.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
But that's why they were there.
Yeah, she was gonna get endowed.
Yeah.
That day.
Okay.
And
Anyway, so he turns to me and says, no, I turned to him. Yeah, I turned to him and said, "You look familiar to me." And he said, I think he connected two and two, and he said, "You been to Australia?" He said, "Yes." And I told him what town. That was Ballarat. Yeah. He says, "Yes, I think you have. And by the way, I think you baptized my dad." "Oh, what is your name?" And he tells me his name, and that's exactly the name. And what's your dad's name? Yep, exactly the name. He says, "Oh, by the way, Dad's right back there." And I turned around and looked. No, didn't recognize anybody there. And said, "Well, that's okay." He said, "My mom's going to be here just in a minute." And that's how long it took her to get there. And I recognized her right off. So I knew. And,
yeah, and his wife to be came and sat beside.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mount that too. To you. I think that's. Anyway, so while in the session, I have the premonition that were there.
We were
they were there.
Were we the witness?
We could have been the witness couple. Yes.
I think we were. That's why we were sitting in those seats.
Yeah.
And they came and sat beside us.
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
So we talked to them after going into the celestial room and had a good chat. They didn't remember me as a missionary, but they remembered my companion. What a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
But we were able to go to their son's wedding, their sealing.
Yes, they
On
invited
Saturday.
us to go to the sealing, which was perfect because the very next day, Nick was getting married in the Guatemala temple. And that's one of the reasons why we went to the temple, so that we can,
At least,
experience what he was going through.
Mm.
And it was just so nice.
What a eye opener to how the Lord grants blessings.
Yeah.
And He's
Tender
done that.
mercies.
And He's done that to us all throughout our life. Little tender mercies that just say, I'm paying attention here. I know you're there.
Yes.
I know what you need.
My finger is right there. My hand is right there. Outstretched. Helping.
Yeah, the whole New Zealand experience, I think, wasn't for that reason.
For many reasons.
But maybe Michael was on top of that too. To be able to get Michael. I mean, the job was great. Really appreciate it, but those two experiences were more important. To have Michael and to meet them. Those are the major experiences in our life.
There was a missionary experience that I had that I have not shared very much, but anyway, we were downtown. I hadn't met you. I don't think I had met you. Yeah, we were in Melbourne when this happened, and there was a gentleman in Melbourne that walked around parts of town, and he persecuted the missionaries. I mean, he verbally yelled at us, and but he did this quite often. Anyway, this one time, my companion and I decided she would walk on one side and I would walk on the other, and the elders were on that other side. Anyway, we were kind of all basically working together and hoping to meet somebody that we could talk to and, ask, and GQ, ask the golden questions. And Anyway, this guy just came up to me and he was just, he was just shouting and yelling at me and saying, yes, you're Joseph Smith. He's just, what is it? He's a false prophet and he's a this and this, he's a that, and he just blurted out all kinds of persecutions. And I don't know, some feeling came over me and I just had this peaceful feeling. At first I thought, what am I going to say? Shall I call the missionary? Shall I call the elders? But there was just this peaceful feeling that came over me. And all I said was, well, what have we done, to hurt you or to make you feel this way? And he looked at me and he said, well, that's it, nothing. And he just walked away. Boy, that was a testimony to me that the Lord protects his missionaries. They just have to trust in him and he'll be there to protect them. Anyway, and meeting Elder White, what was an experience that I had with him? Oh, yes. When I met him, there was a day that we were sitting around being...
Crazy?
Yeah, being a little crazy. The whole district was there. And we just kind of had lunch, and he, everyone was going around saying, oh, yeah, Australia is OTL, meaning out to lunch, or,
TA.
And some of the girls are 3s and 2s and 4s. There was Cabazoni, I think Van Wagner, and the gray-haired one, I think he was Smith, Elder Smith. He was young. Anyway, some of them are still kind of boys and acting like boys. And then
all elders are boys at one time or another.
Yeah. And then I said, well, gee, what about you, Elder White? You're kind of quiet and not saying a thing. And that's when you said,
if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all.
Don't say anything at all. And wow, I don't know what anybody else felt, but I just felt this jab. I was just jabbed, and I thought, wow, that really impressed me. So I just kind of put it aside for the future. But that got my attention.
In reality, Elder White wouldn't have said anything good in the first place either, or anything bad. He's too afraid that he getting stepped on. It takes years and years and years to get out of that. I told somebody today, gave him a compliment. He was a young priest, and I told him that he did a wonderful job at the sacrament. He'd only done it 2 times, and I said, you made absolutely no mistakes whatsoever, and you're so clear, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
And because he was new, I thought that would be nice and give him some confidence. And there's another one too, I need to say the same thing too, but he took it the right way. He's one of those that were not pre-stage, but because he's going to be in the year.
Okay, and then getting married. The most, there's so many, but I always remember the day we got married. I just wanted to get sealed. I've already been through a session.
Endowed.
Yeah, I've already been endowed. I want to get sealed. and they just kept taking me back to, to where I could just get dressed and get ready to get married. Finally, I got the message across that all I wanted to do right then was to be sealed. So they take me to the veil, and then they go looking for Byron, and they find him, and then we go through the veil. And I go through the veil, and I look at him, and I said, "Where are your temple clothes?" I mean, where, he doesn't have his robes on, or his cap, or, or his apron. And I said to the sister, isn't he supposed to have temple clothing on? And she said, "Oh my word, yes, you're right." So they go find him some clothes, and then we do it again.
My hand.
Yeah. Because I had to give
You don't
him
have
my
to put
name.
them on until you go halfway through the session, right? You just have them in your hand. Come on.
Anyway,
Just doing what I'm told.
we get that, and we go through the veil, and everything's okay. And then we come out, and we go sit and wait in the sealing room, and we are sealed, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm here by myself. Never mind. It's okay.
My brother and sister was there with us.
Yeah. And right after we were sealed, I just stepped right out of the sealing room, and this lady comes up to me, and she said, "Excuse me," she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from New Zealand." And she said, she lit up, and she said, and she was the matron, the temple president's wife, and she said, "We were just called to this calling, and to be the temple president, and I'm the matron." She said, "Do you know?" And she started naming all these people that were from my ward at home in New Zealand. And I said, yes, I know her, and I know him, and I know them. They have so many, X amount of children and so on. And I mean, it was just so wonderful.
They had served in Hawaii and met all those saints.
Yeah.
They hadn't gone to New Zealand. But
they had not
served in
gone.
Hawaii.
I don't know what they did in Hawaii.
Made no difference.
Yeah, but they were part of BYU Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And in Idaho on your sealing day.
my wedding day. I thought that was really
Country
something.
town, Idaho.
Yeah.
Idaho's not that big a place.
And she said to me, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And I said, "We just got sealed. I just wanted to be sealed first." And I said, "Now we're just going to go through the temple to go through a session." She said, "Oh, how wonderful." She said, "You can be the temple, you can be the witness couple." She said, "I'll let my husband know." And so we got to go through as the witness couple on our wedding day. I thought that was really, really special.
Me too. Mary held every calling in the ward except bishop that a man can have. Our running priesthood, scoutmaster, 70s group leader, and then it was disbanded. There were no more 70s. We went into the high priest. So, I've been clerk, assistant ward clerk, yeah. So I've been in with the bishopric in his bishopric meetings. Not all the time, but some of the time. If the ward clerk couldn't be there, he'd say, "Can you take notes for me?" Yeah. And so I've been in there. That was while still in America. And then we went to New Zealand, and I was branch president's counselor.
Yeah.
And then I was Sunday school teacher for the senior Sunday school, what's
Hi, Councilman.
that's, what would we gonna call that teaching position? What do they call it now? Gospel doctrine? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. Gospel doctrine teacher. Yeah, and then high councilman in a district. Okay, still an elder. And then we went up north, and they called me into the young men's again, just as an assistant. And so we separated our responsibilities somewhat. Anyway, we had a lot of fun. And then they called me to a high councilman again in a stake. Okay. And I get back here and I can't remember.
And that's when you were made a high priest. But
Yeah,
now you're an elder.
No,
Oh,
I'm still a high priest, thank you very much, in the elder's quorum.
oh, okay. I just didn't know how it was. I've been primary teachers, Sunday school teachers, Relief Society presidencies, all of the
Primary presidency.
and primary presidencies on the state level, Blazer Scout leader on the state level, and Relief Society presidencies just on the ward level. I have not served very much in young women. Hardly ever.
I don't think so.
Probably because I didn't know very much about young
Of course,
women.
on our mission, we serve 2 missions as
Oh yeah.
missionaries, but the president has asked us to be a consultant to the branch president, anything he needed to know or needed to be done, if we could do it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in the Philippines, they asked us the same thing, but 6 months after, we went to a different district and a different home, and he asked us to, the mission president asked us to be an advisor to the stake, and the best way to do that, he figured, would be called into that district as a councilman. And so I advised the High Council on some of the things they should be doing and how they should be running their stake meetings. And they called me to be...
Especially council meetings. Especially to teach them how to counsel with each other.
Counsel with each other, right.
Sit in council instead of having...
It was quite normal for the district president to do all the speaking in the council meeting. He said, no. No. Give everyone here who has a calling a voice and go around the table and have him answer to his calling and ask for anything he needs. Simple as that.
Yeah, and
then they called us to be councilmen over the primary. And I let Sister White do that.
it was okay.
I would just take her where she needed to be.
Yeah, that was a good calling. Yeah, it was good. We did a lot. Yeah.
And then that district was made a stake pretty soon after. Pretty soon.
Yes, it was one of the first stakes that were organized.
In our mission.
Yeah, in our mission. There was
this
another...
Texas? Or was
no,
this
this was in
the
the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
Yeah.
We had 2 that have been made.
Wow.
And the district in New Zealand that we were in has also been made a stake.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So we didn't do too bad.
Oh, well, I don't know if it was because we were there.
No.
I mean,
No.
those people were good and hardworking.
Yeah.
But they just weren't enough, And the district president, we went down to
The Philippines, they didn't do a lot of things they should be doing. They needed to know. Yeah. We had to keep telling them this is how it should be done.
I was just saying, in New Zealand, President, what was his name?
Where? Sorry?
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand.
Oh, Mitchell.
Mitchell, yes.
Yeah, Mitchell. We went down and visited after the stake became a stake. He said, I just told Heavenly Father, if you want this place to be a stake, you better send the people here, because there ain't anybody around here to do all this. They didn't have enough priesthood holders. They didn't have enough people that paid their tithing, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, in 3 months, they were made a stake. From the time he told the Lord.
Yeah, because they started getting people from north.
Yeah, they were. They started coming down, and they all wanted to go to school. A lot of them were married with families that wanted to come and further their education, or they wanted to do a master's or whatever. And yeah.
Otago University was one of the best universities in New Zealand.
In the world, it is. It's renowned for its medical and dentistry. Whatever. Anyway, that was lovely.
So we got a few people down there. The Lord's going to guide you if you have an ear and are willing to do what He asks you to do.
Yeah.
You have to listen to the Spirit. He will guide you.
I was listening to something, and this great person was told, they were honoring this person. I'm not going to say who he is, but he said at this meeting he had to give this speech, and he wanted to honor some of the people that were in the audience. And he said there was this one man that was sitting in the front row, and he had this look on his face that he either wanted to say something, but he just really he just didn't look very, very happy or very calm and peaceful. And he said, okay, so I allowed him, I said, are there any questions? And he put his hand up. And so I decided I would let him speak his piece. And he said, okay. I asked him to speak his piece, and he said, he asked me this question. He said, when do you stop telling your children what to do?
When do they stop listening to you?
And he said, that was my dad. And he said, Dad, I was 5 years old, and you told me something that I needed to do, and I did that. He said, when I was 19, you told me to do something else, and I've done that. And he said, now that I'm 20, when I was 20, I'm not quite sure how old he was, but, when I turned that age, you said, marry this girl. And he said, don't ever stop telling me what to do, Dad. Because she's just the best thing that's ever happened. Wow. I thought that was awesome. Heavenly Father doesn't stop telling us. He invites us. He doesn't tell us, but He invites us. And we don't want Him to stop.
The answer is give to charity.
A specific charity, or?
Oh, I've got a few. Nana and I both like the children's hospitals. St. Jude and Shriners. I don't know which one is attached to Utah or not, but it doesn't really matter.
Primary children's?
Yeah, but they're attached to one of those two, I think, too.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's Shriners.
You have to be specific.
I can't be specific. I don't know which one they're attached to. Well, if they're not attached to any, I'll give to 3 then. Simple as that. I can split it as many times as I want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would give it to the humanitarian service in the gospel. You know, there's that humanitarian donation. I'd say that's a good and that's a good
Yeah, you can
charity. That's one of the better
sure
ones.
that it goes the right way there.
Yeah, because it entails a lot. Our church donates to, you know, water, countries where children need water and food and
Education.
medical supplies, education. And I like the Shriners Children's Hospital, where they, for cancer and
Well, they just say that the
And
parents
all
won't have to
kinds.
pay for anything.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about medical, I mean anything. Travel, food,
yeah,
lodging for parents, family.
yes.
They cover everything.
Wow.
And also helps them to become self-sustaining, which helps them to live another principle of the gospel.
They are already though. They just can't afford to take care of their kid. Me, I'd go back probably all the way to the beginning of my first year of school and try to start over again. I have to have the knowledge that I have now though, because if I just went back, I'd just do it all over again. But my parents didn't know I needed glasses, and so I'd hope that could be changed. And they'd have to know that one thing they could have helped me was to read with me, or read to me for that matter, whatever. They didn't do a very good job of that, but they weren't instructed either. They did the best they could. Yeah, those 2 things, just so I get a better start at school. If I got a better start at school, I could have got into college, at least a little bit.
You did go to college.
Yeah, but I didn't have the foundation I needed to get through it. I did it just to hope. I went twice.
Part of me wishes that I could change everything, and then the other part of me feels like, well, I made all those mistakes and I made bad choices, but I have learned from them now that I'm older. I am wiser. So the only thing I would like to change is some of my choices that I made. I could have made better ones. Especially while being a confused teenager. You know, while we're young and under our parents' tutelage, we have that strong base, even though sometimes it's kind of sad, but it's something that we could always fall back to, and knowing that you're a child of God and that He loves you. Maybe when you're a teenager, you become confused and you're not sure about it, but in the dark moments, you do go back to that. Well, you know.
We both come from a very loving family, although they treated that in 2 different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I guess one of the things that I've done is I've understood my parents better now that I'm a parent, and I do forgive them, especially my mother. You know, I do forgive her for the way she was.
Harshness.
Yeah, for her harshness. But it's only because she cared so much. And, you know, she had a harder time than I did. I know, because they were with a stock whip. You know, that's what they use on the animals. And she didn't do that with me. She might have done a little bit of that with my older siblings. But as the youngest one came along, she didn't hardly ever hit that one.
She learned.
So, you know, she learned and got better as the times go, as time went on, and I know she loved us all.
Nana first
America.
went to Australia. She went to Australia first. So did I.
And
That was the
Australia.
first time you left your home country and the first time you left your home country?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So from then on, of course, we did it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and around the same time.
Now we've been able to go to the Philippines as well. And we meet to New Zealand, she to the United States.
Yeah.
But that's about all
Just
we've done.
Australia and America and New Zealand. New Zealand for him and Australia. And
I've been to
and the Philippines.
Samoa Samoa or Fiji, I'm not sure which, but only to stop for,
Mm.
Yeah, and you stopped in Papieta.
yeah. I'm way
Tahiti.
back from my mission. And once other. But it was only just so quick I thought I didn't get to see nothing.
Mm.
Okay, in Pango Pango, I just love that. I love the air. It was warm, and you know, it was just a moment of joy. Just being able to smell the fragrances in the air. They were not as strong as Hawaii. You know, the flowery fragrances, but it was different and something I'll never forget. And then all the people around were just so friendly and so nice, even though not much was said, because we just got out of the plane and just walked around for half an hour, and then we boarded the plane again. But it was just an experience that, you know, I wouldn't forget, just being there.
Mm.
When we lived in San Diego, she was able to go across the border into Mexico.
Oh,
I
yes.
didn't do it.
Yes.
Why did you guys live in San Diego?
That was my last duty station in the Navy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
That's right. I forgot about
You know,
that.
yeah, it's the only ship I had was the Chicago out of San Diego.
Mm.
It was a dry dock, and I cut on it.
Okay, and when I went to Tijuana, I just went to get raw sugar and I think some rice. But, you know, thinking about food storage, it was much cheaper to go down there and get sugar.
Mm.
And it was a better sugar because it was raw. I mean, it hadn't been refined and refined and refined like it is here.
Mm.
And so they suggested having honey here, but having raw sugar was just as good back then as having honey.
Good storage item, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, a friend and I went over, and there were chickens walking around everywhere, and you know, it was you might say primitive, but I guess it was more like my home in New Zealand. We just didn't have chickens in the house where we lived, but you know, there were chickens around and other little animals like dogs and cats and
Rats.
that were not pets.
And rats.
Yeah.
Just like street
And
dogs.
rats, yeah. I didn't see any rats
She
in
had a few rats in her house. They chewed on her toe.
Yeah. And then in the Philippines, that wasn't too startling for me.
No.
The transportation was different.
I loved it. I loved the rural. And I loved the bamboo huts and
Yes.
brick buildings. That's common to building materials that they used for themselves, unless they had to buy something. Then, so it was different then, but mostly concrete or bamboo.
Yes, or mud floors.
Oh yes,
And
and that too.
and you know, it just helped me appreciate what I did have, and yet I could relate to them having very little as well. I remember the very first day we went out with the sisters, and we just walked. It seemed like miles, but it was probably not even 100 yards.
No, it was good long distance.
Yeah, and
Good
you
long
know,
distance.
there was a trench on this side, a trench on that side, and there was this little
One lane road.
one lane track. No, I
Dirt
mean,
road.
yes, it was a dirt thing like this, and there was water on this side,
Oh,
water.
that's not what they drove on, but yeah, once we got off that road, then that's right.
Yeah, I had to walk along that skinny piece of dirt, and that was the first time I ever felt, what on earth am I doing here? You know, on all my other missions, I never ever felt that way. That never ever crossed my mind. Like when I was in Australia, I never ever thought, what on earth am I doing here? And that never crossed my mind. But for the first time as I was walking, I thought, what on earth am I doing here? And then I thought of these young sisters, you know, that were walking ahead of me or some behind me, and my companion Byron, just, you know, enjoying themselves as they walk. And I thought, what? Don't they realize I'm an old lady? I thought,
I had
don't
no
they
trouble
realize
walking.
I'm an old lady? And I shouldn't have to do this, and I can't do this. Anyway, and I slipped and fell a little. Oh, and I was so angry. You know, I was angry at the situation and thinking, why on earth, why am I doing this? And then to get over to the house, we had to go under or over this fence, and then I stepped on some animal doo-doos. I thought, oh,
Rough day.
yes. And then
Talk
and
about rural.
yeah, it was very rural. And then we went into this hut, you know, and I was thinking the whole time that as I went into this hut,
And it was more basic than the basics.
yeah, it was a mud floor, and it was like from those counters back here, that was bigger. I mean, from where you are to the wall to the counters was it. But you know, as soon as I got in and I looked at the floor and how clean the floor was, I mean, there was nothing on the floor. Everything was like picked up. There were no toys or anything like that on the floor. She held the baby in her arms, and then she had this little 2-year-old come in and sit where, you know, we actually sat basically on their bed. But you know, they had the blankets all folded and put over there, or sheets or whatever they were. And, you know, immediately I just repented. You know, that feeling, the Spirit just testified to me that, you know, I needed to repent. Yeah, it just appreciation for them and for her listening. And she, you know, she had a problem with smoking, but she had really tried, and the sisters taught
Can't remember.
I think it's the third discussion where they discussed the word of wisdom again, and she accepted the challenge, and anyway, she got baptized.
Yeah, she was baptized.
She was baptized, but before the storm, there was a great tornado.
After we left the area, we had
Yeah,
a typhoon come through, and it actually killed her.
yeah, she died.
She was a young mom.
She was a young mom, you know.
Did her kiddos die as well?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, her children didn't die.
No.
Her mother-in-law just went in and got her, and got the children out, but she wasn't able to save the mother. but the children
Yeah, I
are
don't
fine.
know why she died, but she died during the storm.
Yeah.
And
But
she
you
only
know,
definitely knew
but
him.
she had set her priorities right.
Mm-hmm.
She had made her made her covenants to the Lord and
Trying the best she could.
repented and got herself baptized before she went home. Yeah, that was beautiful.
That was probably the most basic of houses we ever saw.
Yeah.
But even the nice houses were more basic than this.
Yeah. Oh yes. Well, there might have been a couple.
Or even the one over there on 500.
Did you see? Yeah, she knew about the house in Lower Springville, close to the chapel down there.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's on 500.
I remember you coming
515
there.
is the address to the house. But
After you
Oh,
got
yes,
married,
of course.
You know.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I see.
And that was, that was kind of challenging
Mona
for
said,
five
I
adults
think we
with
should get a new house. And I said, yes, you should. Let's go find one.
Yeah, so we came here, but yeah, it's just how Heavenly Father loves us all, and He'll provide for us. He fights our battles for us. For me, number one would be to get on the covenant path and do your best to stay on it. And make yourself a plan, like 5 things to do every day, and make it a habit. Get on the covenant path and stay on it. Let me see what else. I guess the second was to stay on it, find ways to stay on it, and make a plan that will make sure you do certain things that are on the covenant path. You do it every day. Then number 3 would be to get to know Heavenly Father. Really, really learn about Him, His personality, His characteristics, His divinity, really, really deeply, because that will help you to know who you are and who you can become. Even though you're the dust of the earth, but out of ordinary people, He does extraordinary. He teaches us to become extraordinary and eternal. And then, what was that? Was 3? And then 4 would be to be friendly and kind and sweet to your
Especially
family.
to your husbands.
Yes.
Thank you.
That. And just be friendly and kind and charitable to everyone around you. And then the 5th one is to get rid of all the contention and negativity that you have in your own personal self. That's all.
So for me, kind to your wife, right?
Yes, open doors for her.
Whatever. Be kind. Yeah, no contention, right? I like the one scripture in the Doctrine and Covenants that says that I, the Lord, am bound when you do what I say, but when you do not what I say, you have no promise. So if you want something, just figure out which one of those blessings He's asking you to do, and take care of it. Simple as that. You get the blessing you want, sooner or later. Yeah, he doesn't say he'll give it right away.
Yeah, believe that it's possible.
It is
You know.
because he's promised it. He doesn't lie.
We can. What was it
Run not be
today?
weary, walk in that faith, word of wisdom, right? Pure and simple. Smarter, study, no problem. You get smarter. Pay your tithing, you'll take care of the odd problems. It'll make you a millionaire, but take care of the odd problems. Very simple. So, I don't know about 5, but that's good.
There was something said in the program today. We believe in Christ, but do we
We believe that he is, but
Yeah.
not, do we not necessarily believe in him?
Yeah.
We know who he is, but we fall short about
Who he
who
is?
he is.
Yeah.
Because if he says he'll do something, and we don't believe him, that means something's not quite there. Once again, it falls to that scripture again, as far as I'm concerned. Paul Quinn, very simple. I don't want to be an ogre, period, okay? That's all.
You don't want to be a what?
Ogre.
Ogre? What? What do you want to be remembered
Well,
for?
I'm not a millionaire. Come on, I'm not a Einstein either, so I just have to be a nice guy. No ogre.
No ogre.
Yeah, you can't think of me
No
as green with weird
older?
ears.
You want to be young and handsome?
Well, I'm more than that. Come on. I'm not a
What do
muffin.
I want to be remembered for? That's a hard one.
Nana is my PR person. She always has been. Oh,
Ooh.
you are PR, personal relations person. People relations person. So we go to the dance. It's only because she made me.
I guess that's about someone who is wise. You know, just somebody that's wise and thoughtful.
Yeah, even my brother has me beat on that one. That my sister says. So I ain't gonna get that either. Yeah, if Barry can beat me on it, I must not have very much wisdom, thoughtfulness.
Yeah, someone who's wise and thoughtful and just kind, charitable. Someone that would think of doing something nice anonymously. I like that. You know, and not talking about it. Just,
Not let your right hand know what your left hand did.
yeah, be like Christ where everyone spits at you and wipes you and smites you and persecutes you and calls you this and sells you for tuppence,
And you're still nice to him.
and he does not open his mouth. He just kept his mouth closed and never said a word against them. Wow. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I remember him saying some bad things about the Pharisees. Right? Yeah, he did.
Well, yes, that's when he
They
was
deserve it.
teaching.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's when he was teaching.
Yeah, he wasn't speaking directly to any one person.
What?
I
Say
don't
that
ever
again.
want them to go to my gravesite. The picture on the wall should do enough.
He's weird, isn't he?
No, that's. If you remember me from my picture on your wall, and if you don't have one, you better have one. Because I don't think you'd remember me, period, if you didn't.
I'd appreciate a visit to my gravesite,
No, not necessary.
but they don't have to. Just when they think of me, you know, they think
Yeah.
of
You'll have those pictures, right?
good things.
You'll have those pictures. That's good enough.